Professionally, what I was doing, I was the director of dental hygiene at Columbia Basin College, but in addition to being the director, I was also a half-time faculty member. And my sister also worked with me, and she was constantly telling me, do you notice how often you ask me to repeat things? And I blamed it on her, of course, because she has kind of a soft voice and she tends to drop her voice at the end of sentences. So I said, if you wouldn't mumble, you wouldn't have a problem hearing me. So we were going back and forth on who had the problem. And then I realized, I think she was telling me the truth, because here I am teaching students. They're all in a classroom together. It's not a giant room, but it's a good sized room. And I was having more and more difficulty hearing them when they would want to ask a question. And I thought, I need to do something about this, because it's hard enough for a student to ask a question in the first place, but to be asked to repeat the question puts them in another awkward position. And I thought, I need to take care of that, the piece that's on my end. I need to be accountable for the fact that I do think I'm losing some of my hearing. But even before that, I had come to Columbia Basin Hearing because I had problems with vertigo, and they also were specialists in that arena. So when I decided to come and have my hearing checked, this is the place I wanted to come, because they've been really helpful to me in dealing with vertigo. So I had two reasons why I came to this particular practice. And they tested me, and I was surprised at how poor my hearing was at that time during that first test. The other thing I really appreciated about them was that they did a really thorough history, health history, medical history about, me personally, my hearing loss, that sort of thing. And one of the things that came up in the discussion was the fact that I used ultrasonic cleaning instruments in cleaning people's teeth. So if people have ever had that done, you'll remember what a high-pitched noise that is, which is very annoying to some people. I could tolerate it pretty easily, but I used it quite a bit. And the fact that I used it quite a bit, they thought might be the thing that caused me to start losing my hearing. Well, I'd been a hygienist at that point in clinical work for 36 years, so I'd had a long history of working in that atmosphere. So, bless their hearts, they said, we think you would qualify for a labor and industries claim. So we determined that I did need hearing aids, or I would definitely benefit from having them. And because of the use of that ultrasonic, they told me that they'd like to help me by putting together an L&I claim and sending it into the state, which I really appreciated, and also warning me that they usually come back declined at first and they'll resubmit it, which they did. And I did get coverage for it because it was related to my work life. So I really appreciated them going the extra mile instead of just sort of telling me about it but not following through. So they did all the legwork on that, and it resulted in me being able to get hearing aids at no cost to me, which was hugely beneficial. So I went about my life. Things got a lot better in the classroom. I could definitely hear the students better. I wasn't asking what all the time. And then as the hearing aids developed in technology, I also was able to get a new set every 5 years. So I got to experience the changes in the technology that were happening in the field of hearing. And I was really appreciative of that. And I was telling everybody that I would run into, especially my dental hygiene friends, if they started having problems with their hearing, they really should get it checked. And I also warned the students about it because we were teaching them to use those ultrasonic instruments and how important it was for them to wear earplugs while they were using it on a patient. And they could still hear enough when the patients were talking to them. They didn't have to keep taking them in or out. But I explained to them that this was something that happened to me. Maybe it doesn't happen to everybody, but if they wanted to protect their hearing, that it was especially important that they think about wearing earplugs when they use that ultrasonic instrument. So that was, I think, how I got from, having good hearing to having compromised hearing. And then the latest thing I did was invest in the ear lens product, which is what I'm wearing now. And it's very different than wearing my initial hearing aids, but the quality of the hearing that I have now has really gone up. And because I'm as old as I am, it's important to me to keep my hearing as, good as I can get, because it does have that contribution to dementia. And I am sensitive to that because both my parents ended up not only having hearing losses, but having forms of dementia as they age. So it's something it's important to me to look at that and do everything I can preventatively to keep from just saying that's just what happens when you age. So I do think hearing has a definite contributing factor to that, and I want to avoid it if I can. Well, it's just definitely increased, and it's more, the hearing that I have now is more clear and crisp than what I had before. I'm much better at being able to be in a public setting, like being in a restaurant and having, a conversation with someone and not being distracted by all the outside noise. I'm much better at being able to hear the communication during the conversation. They're comfortable. Especially when people started wearing masks. I didn't realize how much I had learned to lip read as my hearing was diminishing. And when people would put a mask on, especially in the field of dental hygiene, I wore a mask, and I realized that was difficult for patients if they were reading lips. And I constantly was pulling my mask down so they could read my lips as I spoke to them. But I noticed when I had got the ear lens, I could hear through the masks, even though it would muffle the sound as they spoke, or if they had a softer voice, or if they dropped their sentences at the end, that I was still able to pick up all those little nuances that go into speech. So it was definitely worth the investment. I just can't say enough about them. I think they're wonderful devices. One thing that I thought was interesting, when I got my first set and I went back to work and I was telling people, that I could adjust them up or down, 2 people on my faculty said in different words, "You're so brave." And I'm like, brave? They had such a negative attitude about hearing aids, and they thought I was brave to step out there and go for hearing aids. I've always had short hair. Most of the time people can't even tell I have them in, even if they're right in front of me, because the little wires are clear. They sit behind my ears, and unless they look behind my ear, they can't really see them. So to me, cosmetically, it wasn't a problem at all. But I thought it was interesting that they all had that negative perception. But being someone who'd lost my hearing, I had nothing but positive to say about it, which is like, well, it depends. Do you want to hear or not? And these are certainly not like the ones that my grandfather wore that had a big earpiece and a very visible wire down that went into his shirt and a thing that sat in his pocket. To me, they're practically invisible. And maybe because I'm not self-conscious about them, I don't know that other people are either. But I appreciated the fact that they really looked at the cosmetic value of making them disappear, and especially if your hair comes out and covers it. But occasionally I'll notice it on someone if I'm at the right angle. But the colors and how they fit behind the ear are just great. And and as the technology changed, I even had a smartphone that I could hook into it, and I could adjust the level of hearing if I had somebody that's had a soft voice, or when they first came in with a mask on, and I could adjust that up a little bit and be able to hear them even better.